When my children were small, bedtime was a magical time. My wife and I would take turns reading from these treasured books. You can see the many pages falling out, cracked spines, this one completely falling apart. This time was a time that we would tell stories, and I would read these stories to my children. And we spent countless nights journeying into worlds of wonder. We might dim the lights, snuggle close, and let the stories carry us away into distant lands and enchanted forests. Of all the creatures that captured our imagination, birds had a special place of wonder. Their freedom to soar between the world and the heavens seemed to embody magic itself. Listen closely. The melodies weaving through the air aren't just sounds. They're nature's own storytelling. And of all the winged musicians, perhaps none has inspired more wonder than the nightingale. This remarkable songbird, with its unassuming appearance, yet heavenly voice, has enchanted listeners for centuries. Its ability to transform the darkest night into a symphony of hope and beauty has inspired countless tales, including the one that I'm about to share with you today. Tonight's story, The Nightingale, is part of a special collection of stories that I am creating. Books just like these that I read from my earlier children's years. I'll tell you more about these magical volumes after our story, but for now, settle in and listen as we travel to a faraway land where palaces are made of porcelain, and the most valuable treasure isn't the gold or jewels, but the song. The Nightingale. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far beyond the misty mountains, where dreams and reality danced together, there stood a palace crafted entirely of porcelain, delicate as a teacup, yet vast as the mountains. And when sunlight kissed the gleaming walls, they sparkled with 1,000 rainbow colors, dazzling all who beheld them. The emperor who dwelled within this magical palace possessed gardens where flowers bloomed in color no artist could capture. The most special blossoms wore tiny silver bells upon their stems, creating sweet melodies, tingling, tingling, as visitors passed by. Children would twirl with delight, their laughter joining the magical chorus. And beyond these enchanted gardens stretched an ancient forest, where trees as old as time reached towards the heavens. And if one followed the winding path through the mystical wood, they would eventually reach the deep blue sea, where mighty ships sailed beneath low-hanging branches. In this forest of whispers and wonders lived a small, plain, gray nightingale. Though his appearance was ordinary, when this humble creature opened his beak to sing, oh, the very fabric of the world seemed to hold its breath in reverence. His voice painted invisible pictures of love, profound enough to transcend, of sorrow, deep enough to birth stars, of joys pure enough to heal broken hearts. When darkness draped its velvet cloak across the land and stars awakened like distant lanterns, the nightingale would perch upon his favorite branch and fill the night with melody so beautiful that even rough-handed fishermen would pause their work, their weathered faces softening with wonder. Listen, they would whisper. Isn't that the most magical, beautiful sound you've ever heard? Travelers from kingdoms beyond the horizon wrote tales of the emperor's realm, of the porcelain palace and musical garden, but they saved their most beautiful words for the little gray nightingale whose song could make the hardest heart melt like spring snow. One golden evening, as crystal lamps cast pools of amber across the light through the palace, the emperor discovered such a book. His silk robes rustled like butterfly wings as he turned each page, his surprise mounting with every word. "What enchantment is this?" he exclaimed. "A nightingale? The most precious jewel in my kingdom? How can everyone know of this treasure except for me?" The emperor summoned his lord-in-waiting, a man so important that when ordinary people addressed him, he merely answered, "P," a sound that meant absolutely nothing. "Discover this nightingale before nightfall," commanded the emperor, "or the entire court shall feel my displeasure." The lord-in-waiting questioned everyone in the palace, but none had heard of the famous bird. Panic spread like wildfire. It was a humble kitchen maiden, her hands reddened from endless labor washing dishes, who finally spoke up. "The nightingale? I know where he dwells," she said gently. "When I carry food to my sick mother by the shore, I hear him sing. His voice brings tears to my eyes, like my mother's good kisses from childhood." The lord-in-waiting's eyes widened. "Lead us to this bird at once. The emperor shall reward you handsomely." They followed the maiden through the enchanted gardens where bellflowers played their music, through carved jaded gates, and into the ancient forest where shadows danced between tree trunks. And as they journeyed deeper, a cow in the meadow let out a resonating moo. "Is that the nightingale?" gasped an excited court minister. The kitchen maiden laughed. "No, that's merely Farmer Woo's cow. The nightingale sounds much sweeter, like honey transformed into sound." Later, when the plump frogs began their chorus of ribbit, 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 another official exclaimed, "Surely this must be the famous nightingale." "No," smiled the maiden, "those are just frogs singing evening prayers. But listen now with your heart as well as your ears. Do you hear that?" A crystalline note floated through the twilight, followed by a cascade of melodies so pure it seemed to capture the very essence of beauty. The music enveloped them like an enchanted blanket of moonbeams, and time itself seemed to pause in reverence. "There!" whispered a kitchen maid, pointing to a small gray bird perched on a branch curving over the shimmering water. "That is our nightingale." The emperor's official could scarcely believe his eyes. Could this plain, gray creature truly be the source of such heavenly music? In their magnificent gold-embroidered robes, they had expected a bird as resplendent as a phoenix. "Little nightingale," called the kitchen maid gently, "our emperor yearns to hear your heavenly song. Would you honor us with your presence at the palace?" The nightingale tilted its head thoughtfully, bright eyes twinkling. "I would be honored," he replied, his speaking voice nearly as musical as a song, "though my melodies sound most beautiful here, where the sea sighs and the trees offer their harmony." Nevertheless, the little bird willingly accompanied him to the palace, which glowed in gathering dusk as an enormous lantern inside. Inside, golden lamps cast dancing shadows on porcelain walls that shimmered like seashells. The bellflowers had been brought indoors, their silver voices creating delicate overture as exciting courtiers hurried past in a swirl of silk. In the magnificent throne room, a golden perch awaited the nightingale. The emperor sat upon his jewel-encrusted throne, which scattered tiny rainbows across the polished floor. The entire court had assembled in their finest attire, the rustling of their garments like whispered secrets of 1,000 butterflies. And when the nightingale began to sing, a hush fell over the throne room deeper than midnight. His song told stories without words, of moonlight waves dancing, of love powerful enough to move mountains, a beauty so perfect it made souls ache with joy. Tears formed in the emperor's eyes like morning dew and rolled down his cheek. His heart, long wrapped in ceremony and isolation, melted at the bird's song. And when the final note faded into silence, the emperor offered his diamond-studded golden slipper as a token of his gratitude. The nightingale gently declined. "I have witnessed tears in the emperor's eyes," he said softly. "Those genuine emotions are worth more than all the treasures in your vaults." The wondrous nightingale became the talk of the kingdom. He received a silken cage with permission to fly outside twice during the daylight and once at night, though always with 12 servants holding ribbons to his leg, a freedom that was merely an illusion. One bright morning, a mysterious package arrived from the Emperor of Japan. Inside, nestled on a cushion of finest silk, lay an artificial nightingale fashioned of gold and silver, adorned with diamonds and rubies and sapphires that sparkled with otherworldly brilliance. When wound with a golden key, this mechanical marvel reproduced one of the real nightingale's songs while swishing its jeweled tail in perfect rhythm. "Magnificent!" gasped the courtiers in unified awe. "Let us arrange a duet between nature and this artifice." But the performance was disappointing. The living nightingale sang whatever melodies emerged from his heart, while the jeweled bird repeated the same tune with mechanical precision. "The artificial bird is superior," declared the court musical master confidently. "It performs with flawless timing, never deviates from its melody, and its appearance, his appearance better suits royal surroundings." Soon only the jeweled nightingale performed at court functions, its predictable song repeated 33 times to a thunderous applause, while admiring eyes marveled at its glittering splendor. Meanwhile, the real nightingale, forgotten amid the excitement, quietly returned to the beloved forest. His departure went unnoticed, silent as a starlight slipping through and beneath a door. "Good riddance to that ungrateful creature," huffed the courtiers when they finally discovered his absence. "We possess a superior bird now, one that never surprises us with unpredictable variations." The emperor agreed, giving the mechanical nightingale a place of honor beside the royal bed. For a full year, it sang its single melody until even the kitchen servants could hum it perfectly. And then, one fateful night, as the emperor listened to a familiar tune, something inside the jeweled bird made a large snap, like a twig breaking. The gears ground to a halt with a discordant and the music vanished like a candle flame extinguished by winter's breath. The court physicians and watchmakers examined the broken treasure with a grave expression. "The mechanism has suffered greatly," they announced solemnly. "We can mend it partially, but it must rest for long periods between performances. Its delicate workings cannot be replaced without destroying the melody entirely." This news cast shadows of melancholy over the court. Now the artificial bird could sing but once a year, and even that might prove too much for its fragile inner workings. 5 years passed, like pages turning in an enchanted storybook. Then a great sorrow befell the kingdom. The emperor fell gravely ill. He was pale as moonlight on fresh snow and cold as a winter frost. He lay in his magnificent bed with velvet curtains, struggling for each breath. The courtiers believed his final moment had arrived and hastened to bow before his successor. The palace grew quiet as a forgotten dream, and thick carpets muffling even the softest footfall. Through an open window, a silver moonlight spilled across the emperor's bed, making his face appear carved from the palest white alabaster. And when his heavy eyelids flickered open, he beheld a terrifying figure, Death itself. The grim visitor wore an imperial crown and held the golden sword of state and carried the royal banner. From the darkest corner emerged strange faces, some frightening, with razor teeth and burning eyes, others gentle, with kind smiles. These were the emperor's accumulated deeds, returned as a final witness in his final moments of death. Music, cried the emperor weakly. Bring my golden nightingale to sing away these frightening shadows. But the jeweled bird remained silent, with no one to wind its springs. Death continued to stare with hollow eyes that somehow saw everything and yet nothing. Suddenly through the open window floated a song of such purity and sweetness. It seemed crafted from moonbeams and stardust. The living nightingale had learned of the emperor's peril and perched upon a branch outside just to bring the melodies of hope and healing. As the supplying music filled the room like life-giving water poured into an empty vessel, the phantasmal faces grew fainter. Even death himself listened, enchanted by the beauty that felt even greater than eternity. The emperor felt warmth returning to his frozen limbs, and his song reminded him of life's precious gifts. Sunlight dancing like gold upon the scattered water. Cherry blossoms swirling in the breezes. Children's laughter bubbling like crystal springs. Please continue your heavenly song, Death whispered, his hollow voice growing softer than falling snow. I shall sing on, promised the nightingale, if you will return what you have claimed too soon. The emperor's crown, his sword, and his banner. Death, moved beyond the boundaries of his ancient purpose by the nightingale's song, slowly relinquished the royal treasures. The nightingale continued his enchanted melody, painting pictures of peaceful gardens where white roses bloom beneath gentle sunshine. Death, reminded of his own garden where weary souls find rest after their journeys, drifted away through the open window like morning mist, vanishing before the golden dawn. My eternal gratitude, dear friend, said the emperor, feeling life flowing back into his body, like a magical river returning to its proper channel. You have rescued me from the death's cold embrace. How might I possibly repay such a gift? Your tears, when first I sang, were payment enough, replied the nightingale, his bright eyes reflecting moonlight like tiny stars. Now rest, while I sing you into slumber. The emperor slept peacefully, his dreams filled with beautiful images, and when morning sunlight streamed through his window like liquid gold, he awoke completely restored to health. Stay with me always, begged the emperor. I'll destroy the jeweled bird. No, said the nightingale gently. The artificial bird served you well in its way. Keep it as a reminder. I cannot live in a palace, but I will visit often, singing to you both joy and sorrowful things, of life beyond palace walls. I care more for your heart than your crown. The emperor agreed with grateful tears. And when his servants finally dared to enter the chamber, expecting to find him dead, they instead have discovered him dressed in his royal robe, standing tall, with color in his cheeks, and a smile upon his face. Good morning, he greeted them cheerfully. while the nightingale's song echoed through the porcelain palace like promises that second chances come to those whose hearts are open enough to recognize them. From that day forward, an emperor ruled with greater wisdom and compassion, for he had learned that the most precious treasures aren't those that glitter and shine, but those that touch our hearts with simple, honest beauty. And if you listen carefully on quiet nights, when moonlight silvers the trees and stars hang like silver lanterns in the velvet sky, you might still hear the nightingale song, reminding us all that true magic lies not in glittering appearances, but in the authentic voices of the heart. Dear friends, I hope you enjoyed our journey into the Emperor's porcelain palace and the magical forest where the nightingale's song carries on the evening breeze. Maybe you don't have a nightingale, but maybe you have other birds, as you can listen as they sing their beautiful melodies. Stories like these remind us that true beauty isn't always found in glittering appearances, but in the genuine emotions that touch our hearts. I'm delighted to share that The Nightingale is just one of many enchanted tales with beautiful pictures and graphics on every page that will soon be available in my upcoming storybook collection. These books are being lovingly crafted with the same care as those cherished volumes that showed you at the beginning. These books designed to be read again and again until the pages crack and fall, and with the love that their pages hold and the fingerprints of wonder. And when these treasures are ready to find their way into your home, you'll find a link to them in the description below this video. Each book will be a portal to the worlds where imagination reigns and timeless wisdom is wrapped with the gentle embrace of storytelling. Until our next fireside gathering, may your dreams be filled with the nightingale's songs and your heart open to the simple magic that surrounds us every day. Remember to subscribe to the Fireside Storyteller for more of these enchanting tales. And join our community and add your comments below, sharing your favorite moment from tonight's story, or maybe tell me what your favorite stories are that we can include in our series of books. Good night, dear listeners. Until next time.